All right, so we are going to get to our first conversation of the day, where we are talking to Ray Joseph, who is the CEO, No One's company. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure to be here, sir.
All right, so you deal with, first of all, someone might look at the name and say, Noons, No One. So what does No One really deal with, first of all, before you even continue?
Well, the name No One's just comes from a decentralized approach to finance.
Okay.
You can't stop no one's, etc. A little bit about me. My name is Ray. I was born in Egypt, but I grew up in New York. But I've left the West, and now I'm back here. I was the first person to bring Bitcoin and cryptocurrency to Africa.
Okay.
My old platform was copied by Binance and became Binance peer-to-peer. So No One's is a peer-to-peer marketplace, a universal wallet, and a messenger all combined to give the people of the Global South a way to trade with each other.
Okay, very well explained. And now, speaking about trading with each other, when we look at how people interact with platforms like Bitcoin, the way you've mentioned, when it comes to awareness, what needs to be done, especially for consumer education, when it comes to how people are handling these particular platforms?
Well, the number one thing is we have to recognize this is already happening. Peer-to-peer is an unstoppable force. No One's trading volume in Kenya alone is about $3.5 million per day, and it's just getting started. Just yesterday, I had a whole bunch of our traders drive 8 hours to come see me in nice cars, which they bought with all the profits they made from trading peer-to-peer. Now, I want people to understand something. When we talk about crypto, everyone always thinks scams, and that's actually good. Africans should be very skeptical whenever someone comes to them and tells them about some new coin to buy, because those are almost always scams. We're not selling any new coins here. We're just allowing people to trade with each other. So if you want to, say, if you're a merchant in Kenya and you want to make a payment to China, you can use cryptocurrency to do that, something you would not have been able to do before. That's all.
All right, even as you say, people need to look at it from maybe a different perspective, from looking at it into crime and criminal activity. When you look at the licensing that goes behind this particular kind of business, when you come to East Africa or even Kenya, first of all, why Kenya? Why East Africa? And then we can look at also even the licensing and what goes into that.
Well, Kenya is the gateway to Eastern Africa. That's 400 million people. The Kenyan youth, the Gen Z of Kenya, are particularly keen. They're amazing traders with amazing business acumen. I just came back from speaking at a university, and the energy was amazing. As an entrepreneur, I have an eye for energy, and that's why I'm here in Africa. I'm putting my bets on black because it makes sense. Now, you brought up regulation, licensing, compliance. These are the things we love to talk about on the news, right? Because we don't want fraud to happen. We don't want money laundering to happen, right? Okay, but let's put it in perspective for a moment. We want to talk about this little money that happens with scams and fraud that really is the result of poverty. And where does the poverty come from? It comes from the situation that we have been put in by the colonial powers that never left. They are literally taking trillions of dollars from us and have given us, imposed a financial system that simply does not work. Pan-African payments are still not possible in the age of M-Pesa. And they want us to forget about that and look at these little guys over here and stop them and work so hard to stop them. I think we should zoom out and understand the situation. And instead of trying to stop something, we must let Gen Z, the amazing Gen Z of Kenya, continue to develop this. And then we can bring in some innovation-friendly regulation that will allow business to thrive and that money to move around.
Right, someone might come into this and say, okay, when I get into this, I'm not 100% sure if I go to No One's platform, I will start trading there, and maybe I don't get into scam. So when you look at the security measures that are being put in place in such kind of platforms, what is usually the gap, especially when it comes to this? Because very many people get access to this and get to scam people.
Absolutely. So let's put it into perspective. No One's is a peer-to-peer platform, but it's really an escrow service, and it's safer to use an escrow service like that instead of just trading with someone you just met on WhatsApp or Telegram. Because how do you even know he has the crypto, the USDT or Bitcoin on the other side? On no one's, because there's an escrow, we prove that he has the crypto to trade. So the other side that has the cash, the bank transfer, the M-Pesa, they can go first. That's tremendously beneficial. An escrow, which is a payment with a condition, is very important because once the conditions have been met, meaning you've received the money, then you can release the escrow. And if something goes wrong, we offer financial dispute arbitration. One of our moderators will come in, they will look at the evidence from both sides, and they're quite good at it, and they will render a decision. It's also insurance in that respect. So it's much, much safer than doing a trade in person or online. Escrow services are good.
All right. So when you look at this platform, is it really just focusing in Africa? And how does it even contribute into the Africa Free Trade area? Because when you talk about trading across Africa, we cannot go without mentioning the Africa Free Trade area. So how does it contribute into the trade area that we have?
No one supports the entire world except the United States and a few other countries like OFAC countries like North Korea, etc. We don't deal with those places, don't deal with Iran, etc. But we deal with the rest of the world.
Yes.
But my real focus is the global south, particularly Africa, because I was born here and I see the most potential here, right? There's the most way to move here. So here in Africa, my dream is a pan-African renaissance, and we are right in the middle of that. 4 African nations have broken away from the French, they've kicked out the Americans, and they keep going, and they're still alive. So it's our opportunity now to complete the pan-African renaissance, but it won't matter unless there's pan-African payments. If you think about America, when America was 13 colonies, each had their own currency, and it was hard to move money around. It's when America became united under a single currency and a single financial system that it became powerful. How rich would America be right now if you couldn't send money from New York to New Jersey? It would be a third world country. And that is the reality in Africa. It is the most over-regulated region in the world. It suffers from the most extreme capital controls in the world. Egypt, where I was born, just a few weeks ago, the Egyptian pound lost 60% of its value in one day. That is not natural. That comes from other sources, outside sources that don't want us to get rich. So when we unite Africa, when we increase pan-continental trade, which is really officially at 13%, Europe at 70%, the real number of pan-African trade is actually less than 1% if you count exclusively African-owned companies. So imagine going from 1% to 70%. That's a 70x. Imagine every merchant in Kenya making 10 times more money because they can accept payments from customers all over Africa.
Yes.
What business person is going to say no to 10x more revenue? Not 10% more revenue, but 10x. Why should we be denied this?
Okay. And now, the Pan-African payments, you say we are below the 1%. So how do we even get to 1% or 2%? How do you convince people around, even across Kenya, and say, okay, this is what we want to focus on, and it's going to bring this kind of collaboration with even other African countries? So how do we, should we start from, even to get to 1%?
Well, the first step is we have to understand how we got to this situation. It's like Malcolm X always said. You have to know how you got to this situation to be able to build a better future. And also removes the self-esteem problem as well. In the back of my mind, growing up as an African American, I always had this feeling that I just wasn't as good as everyone else for whatever reasons were imprinted onto my mind. Now that I understand that 60 African presidents, the best presidents we had, have been killed within my lifetime, heroes like Kwame Nkrumah and Thomas Sankara, who were exceptionally good at building up and modernizing, industrializing their countries, they were taken away from us. And that's because someone out there does not want us to succeed. That's the first thing to understand. Now, we can get to the fun part. The tools we have to fix this. Every business person wants their job to be easy. They want to be selling more. They want to be able to acquire the goods that they need. And in every single instance, billing and payments is always an obstacle. It's become an obstacle that's so ingrained in our psyche, we don't even see it as an obstacle anymore. But if you describe the average African's life with payments to an American or a European, they'd be horrified. They'd wonder, how are you people not extinct? All we have to do is fix the money problem. Then the floodgates of prosperity will open up. And this is not a pipe dream. History has proven this. We have lost the best of our leaders who tried to fix this, including Muammar Gaddafi. This just happened recently. Now, we actually have a generation, Gen Z, these millennials, who are already taking advantage of all of this. They're making it happen. They did not have to wait for permission from anyone. It was your own president, William Ruto, that got up in a room full of all these European presidents, and he asked them, where is this new financial architecture that we were promised? And of course, they all looked at him like, were you serious? You thought we were serious? We're not going to give you that. Well, the good news is we've already started, and we can't stop it.
All right, and even lastly, as we now wrap up this conversation, going forward, because when you deal with digital platforms or the technology in digital platforms, we usually look at the security and how secure is the data in these particular platforms. So going forward, even as you continue expanding into different other new regions that have not been tapped into, how do you make sure that you improve even when it comes to data collection and also how you store your data?
So we have best practices there. No business I've ever run has ever been hacked. I've never lost anyone's money. We have a great security team, a great compliance team, blah, 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 blah. That stuff is there. But you know what really matters?
Yes.
Education. People have to understand that this is a new playing field. With cryptocurrency, with peer-to-peer trading, your money is not at a bank. Your money is on your phone. And your password is your money. So if you're using the same password you use for your email, for your cryptocurrency wallet, you've probably already been hacked. Because every African website stores their password in clear text, and some hacker has it, so it's only a matter of time before you lose your money. So use a different password, use two-factor authentication, meaning using your phone as well as an additional layer of security, and respect the security game. We take a lot of time to educate people about proper security, but this is a new world where you self-custody your own money, where you don't have to ask for permission to use your money, where your money has no borders. That comes with additional responsibility. But the good news is, Gen Z over here is really taking matters into their own hands, and they've actually figured it all out themselves. So all we need to do is just continue educating people about how to apply best practices when it comes to money. That's the best form of security, and that's the best form of data protection.
All right, thank you so much, Ray, for joining us on Business Today. Ray Joseph there, who is the CEO, No One's, just speaking to us about financial empowerment and what you need to do, especially when you're trading online using cryptocurrencies, and just speaking about the education that needs to go behind using these particular platforms. All right, we're going to go for a short break, but when we come back, we're going to continue with another conversation where we'll be looking at micro-insurance. And when you talk about micro-insurance, we're talking about the insurance that a low-income earner can get. So therefore, don't go too far. We'll be back with more.